Okay, well, welcome everyone. We are super excited that you are joining us today. We have a phenomenal presentation, Sherry. I think we're conversational presentation.
Let's call it that.
Yeah.
You can trademark that today.
There we go. We are super excited to be joined with Sherry Taylor. She's going to be talking about next steps for organizations that saw growth over those infamous 2020 and 2021 and what we can do with that. So we're going to sit tight here. We're going to let everyone sort of join. Going to let people sort of log in. So we'll give them a couple minutes here. How you doing, Sherry?
I can't complain. Summer's flying fast. Kids are starting school soon, so that'll be good. We got to get back. But it's been a good summer.
Yeah, okay. Now you're in the Midwest?
Yes, I'm just a half mile north of Chicago city limits in Evanston.
Okay.
So it's, just we took our vacation right, like literally the day the kids got out of school, the last day of May. And so we vacationed early and, doing all the camps and all the things. And it's been a good summer.
Good. Well, those of you that are just joining, we'd love to know where you're from. So you want to pop up that chat box, share in the chat box there. Let us know where folks are. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I got excited. I clicked the wrong thing. Let's see here. I was going to open the chat box. There we go. Oh, we got Brian from the Christina Cultural Arts Center in Wilmington, Peggy in New York. That's phenomenal. All right, Stacy, Fort Worth. All right. It's representing, so fantastic. So go ahead, Indianapolis. All right, that is where Bloomerang is headquartered.
Nice.
We got there Lubbock, Sarasota, Emily from Sarasota and Lori from Lubbock. Noblesville, we know Noblesville. That is not too far from where Bloomerang is headquartered. Hey, Jerry, welcome. All right, so we'll let people sort of as they're joining. Yeah, there we go. South Carolina, Massachusetts, a lot of Indianapolis is repping today.
There you go. Wonder why.
Yeah, Marjorie actually just joined the Bloomerang team.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we're thrilled. She's going to be leading our Bloomerang Academy. So that's a whole different webinar series that we do for Bloomerang customers to get the most out of their
cool
investment. So, all right. Well, we are past the top of the hour. We are at it's 11:01 here on the West Coast, which means it's 2:01 on the East Coast, and somewhere in between. I don't want 1:01 in Chicago, and for our mountain folks, I guess that would make it just a little bit after noon. So we are so thrilled that you could be joining us today. Super excited to be having this conversation. Present conversation.
Yeah,
presentation.
That's it.
Sherry. We're going to be looking at next steps for organizations that saw extreme growth in 2020 and 2021. Before we dive in, just a couple housekeeping tidbits here. This presentation is being recorded, so feel free to take the notes, but we will be able to send out the recording afterwards. We will use the chat for any all group questions, but for specific questions for Sherry or for myself, we also have my colleague Sarah is sort of in the behind the scenes here. So if you have any technical questions, use that Q&A, right? So button on the Zoom control panel there. Q&A is for specific questions to either Sherry or myself. If you want to follow along, you can tweet at us at Bloomerang or hashtag Bloomerang or at Bloomerang Tech. And then, for those of you that are unfamiliar with Bloomerang, we'd love the opportunity to, have a deeper conversation with you. We are a, donor database and fundraising software platform, and would love to learn how we might be able to help you out. So you can check us out at bloomerang.co, or if you want to connect directly at that/demo, and our team would be happy to schedule some time to learn about how we could collaborate. All right, with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Sherry. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let you sort of pick it up here.
Good.
Sherry, welcome.
I'll grab it as soon as you drop it here. Okay, how does that look, Josh?
Perfect.
Okay, good. Good afternoon, good morning, good all the things. I'm so excited to be back at Bloomerang, one of my favorite places to come and have a conversation. So, so nice to do a first webinar conversation presentation with you, Josh.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about growth. This is a new topic, like official topic that I talk about it all day long, but it's an official new webinar topic that I have felt so, I feel like it's important to talk about, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. Now, real quick, who am I? Many of you, know who I am, or maybe this is the first time meeting. Best place to follow me and hear everything I'm chatting about is LinkedIn. So hop over and follow me. But just a quick snapshot, I'm Sherry. I'm just north of Chicagoland. I help leaders who are growing, who have abundant mindsets, who have big strategic plans, but they need the Gen Ops funding to put the fuel in the engine. They need more unrestricted revenue. And so I work with CEOs to help them really identify what is that revenue trajectory that they could be reaching. What does that look like? I work with development teams to make sure everybody's doing the right things. We know what to stop doing, we know what to start doing. And then I work with boards to really help them make, kind of turn their network into a great pipeline for fundraisers. And I love organizations that want to grow, are growing big, want to add multi-seven figures. And that's the super fun part of my job. Okay, so at the end of 2021, 2022, and here we're like crazy flipping over into talking about 2023, I had this moment when I started a bunch of clients in January, and I noticed that they were coming to me with different problems. And these were like fun problems. They were abundant problems, right? The problems, frankly, we'd all want to have. So they were, hey, we've gone from 6 million to 10 million, like we're raising millions more. We did our strategic plan, like the old one is irrelevant now because COVID blew it up. And we have a plan to grow 5x. Maybe it was, oh my gosh, we've been fully funded every year since COVID, and it's month 6. So like, I need to be thinking bigger. It could be like, oh my gosh, we have hundreds of new donors in the donor file. And oh my gosh, they're on the billionaires list. That literally happened to a client of mine. So there were people coming to me with these very intentional, like new, I guess just new problems and wanting to say like, help me not go back. Like, I don't want to go back to what it was. I want to use this opportunity, use this crisis that we stood in the gap and we killed it and we raised money and we served everybody and we pivoted and did all the things. We don't want to go back. And we frankly want to take control and handle of this opportunity and push ahead. And I got to tell you, that has made my job super, super fun this year. Now, probably the reason I haven't told this or created this before is because when I start talking about this, there's always somebody who's like, no, but like, we don't want to offend the people that like, they didn't grow by millions in 2020, 2021. It's like, we're still struggling or whatever it is. I'm here to tell you today, like these principles, these tips, these steps, our conversation today is still going to be valuable to you. There's nuggets to take away. Frankly, I would have given you this advice even like in the old days in 2019. So buckle up, take notes, enjoy the ride. So I want to talk about, Josh, I want to talk about 5 different topics or concepts. I don't know if they're tips, whatever they are, that really I'm working through with a lot of my clients who have experienced extreme growth. And so much of the work I'm finding is really seeing a lot of these old misconceptions in the nonprofit sector, putting them to rest. And maybe you guys are feeling that too. But I'm just so glad some of these old narratives that we've told ourselves in the sector, let's call them over. Like let's just call it like, great, that's the old way we did it, and now we don't do it this way. So this first one I want to talk about, and I'm going to jump into the deep end here. It's like, okay, so let's just play it out. You've grown. Well, our reserve is feeling good. We're serving more people. We have cash in the bank, all these things. Now what do we do? How do we, I don't know, we don't want to like triple again, but like, how do we grow? How do we think about the next steps? So I want to talk about this concept of risk taking. And it feels like there's great risk when it's like, oh, we got cash, we got to use it well, or There's new opportunities, and these new big things feel risky. And I'd probably ask us to say, like, but is it really that risky? Or is it a calculated risk? Again, our old thinking was like, we can't do those types of things, but you know what? I think we kind of can. So for years, we haven't touched the risky things because we're like, donors wouldn't fund that, or what would they think? What about our percentages? It's like, that's a fearful thing to think about. Like, great, we have this new opportunity, new way of looking at things, and now we're going to do this. I have a client right now on the East Coast. She came to me, her plan, she's grown tremendously. Her plan is to 5X. Boom, I love that. Her plan is to go from 2 million to 10 million. She can do it. She's put a strategic plan together. It's remarkable, I might add. She's going local to national to international. She's she's going from thousands to serving millions. She's going, it's like there's, in every way, shape, or form, it says growth, it says innovation, it says climb the hill. And to be really honest, this is her annual revenue. She's on this trajectory, like high five, right? She's a sure bet. It's an amazing mission. She's already scaling, and here's where she is right now. And so this year, she has a $2.25 million need. Now, she hasn't just thrown this wall to the number and be like, well, here we go, we're going to 5X. No, but what we've put together is a true plan to scale this thing. This is not risky. We have the financing plan. We know the team she needs to do this. We know how they need to align their hours with dollars. We know what the spend is that results in this much income. We have it proved out. And so, like, to me, I'm like, this isn't risky. We got this. We can do this. Here's what happened. And I love this, frankly. She met with a funder. She met with an individual. He has the ability to really give a tremendous amount of money. And she presented the whole strategic plan to him, and wasn't risky enough to him. I don't know. Doesn't seem risky enough. He wants to invest in risk and innovation. We were like, really? Like 5X, like local to international, there's some element of risk in there. But here's why I just bring this up today. And I love telling the story, because instead of us being offended, how dare he tell us that? And he's not that slimy donor who's like, this is how, none of that. We celebrated. We were like, you know what? How absolutely and utterly refreshing that a donor said, push harder, go for it. I'm behind you. I want to see bigger. Like you have this potential. And so like, let's go for it. Really, like that attitude is so refreshing. So guess what? We get to go back and say like, ooh, what were those questions he asked? What maybe isn't he understanding? And just get to work alongside him and really bring him in as a stakeholder in the planning and deepen his engagement. Really, and frankly, making it a win-win for him and the organization. And guess what? Another funder, this is a foundation, came to them and said, we want to invest in risk and innovation. Well, that sounds familiar these days. So what did we do? We went back to him and said, can we pick your brain on this? Because we're having other funders coming to us with that. And then we're really seeking his advice. And frankly, we value it. And so we're using this concept to really engage both donors in this case. It's what they value. They're valuing us being in an abundant mindset. And so I love sharing this because I think we have to ask ourselves, if we would have maybe put together plans in 2018 or 19, maybe they would have felt really risky. But is your plan risky? Are your growth plans risky? Is your strategic plan big enough? Is your dream big enough? Because now is the time you walk through the door and window, because funders are thinking differently. I kind of look at these plans as like, could we have been doing this all along? Like, or maybe are there parts of it we could have been doing all along? But to grow and scale our organizations and to keep on a forward moving trajectory, keep scaling and growing, we've tried to solve the wrong problems for too long, right? We've tried to solve these problems like, oh, how do we how do we solve these? And we've turned to kind of fundraising things to solve these. This is my fundraising iceberg. Like, this is all the things we see and we've struggled with in the past. It represents what we've tried to fix for too long. These symptoms are really a result of not fixing kind of the underlying root causes, right? That business behind the fundraising. And so I love talking about this because, well, this is kind of what I do. I want to make sure that we are not being irrationally frugal. I wish that was my trademark phrase. It's not. I took it from Bobby Rebell. Irrationally frugal. It is blocking our growth. We get to think bigger. I would also say, under the iceberg, are we really jumping too quickly into the fundraising things? And have we taken the time to figure out how we should finance our growth, how we should finance our risk, how we do that with mainly unrestricted revenue? And third, maybe most important, I don't know, are we doing the things that then attract these donors, these investment level donors who are speaking our language and like, I'm behind you, like this guy, like these two funders? Are we doing the things that attract those types of donors? And so I love talking about this topic because, and I think it's a good time for us to ask ourselves, do I need objectivity? And hopefully your board can provide that, and your partners and that kind of thing. But am I in too deep that like I can't really see what could be, and that really isn't that risky? And that these are really solid steps of you growing your great business you're running. Your business is changing lives, but you're growing a great business. And we want to attract donors who get that and are in partnership with you and are linking arms in that with you. Are you thinking abundantly? This is going to attract investment level donors. And that's how we fund your strategic plans. That's how we really use your strategic plan to attract those donors who are going to be with you and really are going to give their best gift to your mission every year. Okay, so Josh, I'm starting with a bang. I got excited already. I have to take a drink.
I love this stuff. I mean, I love taking a risk, right? I think one of the things that I often will do with the team that I have the privilege of leading is like, we got to take risks. And I think some people are so adverse. Well, what if it doesn't turn out? Well, I think one of the things that I love about when things don't turn out is we learn something, and we can use that to then just continue springboarding our missions and our goals. So this is really great stuff, Sherry.
And so and I don't mean to a lot of the work is mindset work that I work with my clients on. I don't mean that to sound like voodoo. Like fundraising and growing organizations is very practical. But even this morning, I was talking to a brand new client, and I gotta work on the abundance here, because it was like, well, but if I hire that person, what if they don't do a great job? Well, if I do this, what if they don't understand our tone? Or it's like, we can't think like that. We got to think that like you're going to hire the best person, they are going to knock it out of the park, and you're going to scale. Let's build on that assumption. That's not risky. Let's build on that assumption and attract that vibe to us. Okay, step 2, item 2, whatever this, I don't know if these are steps, but they're concepts. Okay, so I want to talk about being next level. You were raising 5 million, and oh my gosh, now you're at 10, and whoa, holy smokes, that was a wild ride. I always say, like, okay, great, so now you're in new shoes, so go run in them. Be next level. We got to think next level. We got to quickly get used to this new challenge and problem. Now, when we enter this, our inclination is to go really heavy on programs as an organization. This is why 77% of nonprofits never reach $1 million and 91% never reach 5 million. We're spending too much on programs. Don't hear me say programs aren't good, but we got to make sure we're putting enough gas in the engine. Your growth, you sustaining any growth, or maybe you went like this and we just need to level it out, has way more to do with the spend that you're thinking about than how you're raising it. This is the time where you've scaled to pause and say, we need to make sure that we are putting enough gas in the engine. We're investing time in our people, their skills, that we have the right people on the bus. We can dream big, and hopefully your eyes have seen kind of what that new step can be. But without proper help and without proper gas in the engine, you aren't going to be able to sustain it or frankly achieve that next level. And so I want you to make sure in your new world, I don't know, this is an example right now of like, oh my gosh, Mackenzie Scott just gave you $8 million. Like that's another scenario, right? What do we do? We have to make sure that we are not tipping too hard into just spending in programs, because I know those have all grown for a lot of people on this call. We have to make sure that we are just as committed to investing in our admin and our fundraising, our overhead, if we want to sustain this, right? If we want to consistently grow every year and keep this up. And so behind this client example of mine, we're not going to get to this number, it's going to 10 by just grinding harder, right? And like, hoping a celebrity will retweet us. Like what you're seeing here, what you're not seeing here is like the math equations, all the things where we've analyzed the spend that allows us to raise that. And in this organization, learning how to do things differently, learning how to align hours with dollars. This is not the time, and she will not get to this $10 million goal by being irrationally frugal. That will actually keep her from being this. If you have money in the bank right now, it is the gas for your next level engine. And so you have to be able to understand what the spend is for you to raise it, to be confident enough so that this doesn't feel risky. It doesn't risky to me because like we know the exact steps that she needs to take to do this. If we are kind of falling into our old ways, right, and not investing in all three areas, well, it is going to leave you vulnerable to a funding plateau and hopefully, or going back down. We don't want to do that. We don't want to go back, right? It also might leave you landlocked with new opportunities that are on your plate. Like now that you're this, now that maybe you were local and oh my gosh, now we're virtual. And so now we're national, whatever that is. If we are not investing in all three areas, we do get landlocked from opportunities. And we saw this, the last couple of years. In general, as an organization, if you're not investing equally or all robust in a robust way, at times of crisis, we all know what happens. We all know, we can look back the last couple of years and know what happened. Here's the truth. This is sometimes hard to believe. When you invest, when you spend in all three of those areas of your organization, it actually helps you raise more money. I see it all the time. I guess it's the classic spend money to make money. It is. You have to understand the spend, how that aligns with your staff, resources, skills, everything we're investing in them, and how that yields X dollars, right? So I always say, I actually said it this morning to a board member. I said, hey, would you believe me if I told you that like your organization's growth actually has way more to do with the board, the leadership's comfort level with these kind of topics we're talking about today, this planning and are we opposed to risk? Does it feel scary? Budgeting, investing, spending. You reaching your goal and exceeding your goal, again, has way more to do with that comfort level versus any fundraising activity you may add to your plate. I love telling, in this case, I love telling boards that because I need the boards to be able to think big. I need the boards to not be, nitpicking. I need them to loosen the reins a little bit and say, yeah, you're right. We do need to invest in that area if we think we're going to grow it. So when I've used the phrase irrational frugality, I know that irrational frugality is happening when someone contacts me and I hop on their 990 and it's like, yep, spending too much on programs, right? It's just, we're kind of growing, not really growing, maybe a little bit. Usually, so this is a slide. I actually brought this in here today, Josh. I thought it was kind of fun. This is a slide from my pre-2020 webinars. And what I used to say was, okay, so you are investing 90% in programs. And if you're going to grow you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision to invest in overhead so that you can scale your organizations and grow. And I deeply believe that. I believe that today. This is what was happening to my clients, right? The thing right now is like, okay, for many of you, you like, whoa, something just happened and it was called 2020, 2021. And it's like, oh, holy smokes, we just doubled or whatever that looks like. And it was maybe more reactive in many cases because you were showing up, you worked hard, you reached more people, you stood in the gap when we all needed you most. Thank you so much. And so for many of you, it's like, okay, well, this has happened. And now what? What does that look like? And so I want to challenge you to not go into your old self. This is us in new shoes. This is us in new, whether you want them high heels or running shoes, whatever you want. I want to challenge you and open the door for you to think differently and not assume all of it needs to go into programs, right? And not assume that like, oh, it's going to look bad to donors if we spend a lot kind of beefing up the organization. I don't know if we can spend that much on overhead. What is our grade going to be? You know, what's our percentages going to be? If your fundraisers know how to have investment level conversations with donors, know how to walk them through your financials, know how to sit CEO to CEO and lead them through these conversations, they'll understand it. They will understand it. Individual donors whose businesses grew in the last 2 years, they get this. They're going through the same thing. So speak your donors' language. They're dying to have conversations with you of how you're scaling and what you're thinking. They are doing the same exact things. But too often we pivot back to transactional fundraising activities. They're dying for you to have these conversations. And so what keeps organizations from being fully funded or kind of keeping on this trajectory is slipping back and buying into these misconceptions. We have to break that mold. You have the opportunity to break this mold. And I'm super passionate about it because my clients who break these rules, misconceptions, they scale so much bigger and they could, and it's attracting a whole different type of donor that is so refreshing. And the time is now to do that.
Sure. We had a question from Stacy here.
Okay, good.
Long list, and she said, in our experience, funders want to see more spent on programs. And I think we just talked a little bit about this. Mm-hmm. She had one funder deny her because programs were only 81% of their budget. How do you convince a potential funder to be next level with you?
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about this, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering if that person, if that's an institutional funder, like a foundation, who's maybe still thinking a bit old school. I'm not seeing, so I mainly work with individuals, family foundations, private business owners. We start there. Sometimes I am seeing that still, Josh, where it's a traditional institution and they just haven't come along. I would challenge or just encourage, I shouldn't challenge, I'm challenging you, encouraging you to start having these conversations with individuals who get it. They aren't going to ask the percentages questions. Actually, frankly, I coach my fundraisers to bring up the percentages question, because if you can tell me why you need to only invest, and that's still a good number, 81% into programs, and why you need to invest 19% in admin and fundraising, and how that is scaling your organization, and how that helps you raise more money. Oh my gosh, to put more into programs, you have to be able to sit at the table and walk them through that. And so funders that don't give you the opportunity to do that, shame on them, is what I would say. Of course, I wouldn't tell you, well, don't apply. Sure, I want you to apply, but you have the opportunity to go have that conversation and attract those types of funders who get it and who get that you have to spend money in your business. Yeah. You know what? I'm going on a side tangent here because I get excited, but I have a coach and I was just zooming into a retreat she was having. And someone had asked, like, what's the average percentage that we should be spending on our businesses? And there was a CFO in the room, and she said, yeah, I'd say like 35%. And I just literally thought, like, wouldn't half the world go bonkers if we said, yes, nonprofits should spend 35% on overhead? But it was a commonality in the room. Everyone's like, yeah, 35%. Some years I spend 50%, but it helps me raise and, so much more. It helps me make so much more. And I just hearing that, I thought, oh my gosh, how many years have organizations been held to 10%? Right. So I think Stacy was her name. 81% is rock star. It's rock star.
Nice work, Stacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So own it. Be in those new shoes. I'm sorry that funder didn't understand that, but go pivot and attract people who get it. People who really get that you have to spend money to make money. Spend money to make money to put back into programs. Because you will grow, you will scale faster with an 81% versus a 90. That person doesn't get it. Can I be that blunt on this webinar, Josh? I guess I just did. So
and I'm not going to stop you. Yeah.
Okay.
We have a lot on the chat here. I'm also seeing foundations.
Okay, good.
To 70-30% spread. So that feels like more in line with what you're looking for.
Yeah, good.
Maura said here, I've been interested in learning how much of a for-profits organization, a corporation revenue goes to admin versus the end products. I think it's an important answer to have a contrast. So I think that
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, just them saying that, and like literally the other 12 people in the room going, oh yeah, we totally spend that. And just that, like, we're running a business, and that business is changing lives, and we cannot be held to a different standard. That makes no sense, especially coming off the last few years when we have never needed you more, nonprofit leaders and nonprofits. You got us through crazy these last 2 years.
Yeah.
So I get on fire. OG. Now I've really gotten on fire. Okay, so step number 3. Let's talk here. I want you to stay flexible. What do I mean by that? Well, I always, flexible revenue. I always ask this kind of funny question of like, does your nonprofit need more money? Some actually don't right now. Actually, usually everyone's like, who doesn't need more money? Actually, some don't right now. But as we're going to scale and grow, and as you want to continue growing and continue serving, and even if it's kind of leveling out, we know you don't just need more money. We have to make sure that as you grow and as you have invested in a deeper way, that we make sure that you are securing the most amount of flexible money. So I want the majority of your growth to be from unrestricted dollars. The majority. You have to have full flexibility. I don't need to tell you that. We want those gifts from decision makers who you have direct access to. This was the key in April of 2020. Hey, Chris, could we talk? Direct access to that donor versus let's apply to things and hope people cast their vote for us, and 30 people are hoping to give, and they're not going to give to us now because we're an arts organization and it doesn't feel as crucial or critical right now because the obvious reasons. We want to make sure these are direct people we have direct relationships with. I call those single source decision makers. These are stakeholders who want to give larger gifts to you because I'm using Stacey's example, they love that you're spending 81% on programs because they love that you're investing in the business you're running because they know it's going to get more results. And they want to be in partnership with you. They want to link arms with you and give to you every year. Now, here's the challenge. A lot of organizations come to me and are doing things, or maybe I should say aren't doing the things that actually would attract donors to give this way. They're not attracting the donors who would say, oh yeah, 81%, that's, gosh, of course you've got to spend money to make money, right? And so when we kind of like so often, I show this slide on every webinar I do, all these symptoms that I showed you on my iceberg, 91% of donors never reach $5 million of annual revenue. Isn't that bonkers? I just think this is a bonkers statistics. I know it's getting a little old, but like, I don't think it's changed that much. And so if we think of like wanting to attract unrestricted dollars so we can invest in our organizations, so we can scale them and grow by millions and invest back into programs and change more lives, if I'm really honest, we are trying to solve these by the wrong things, right? Like the things I want you doing, the things under the waterline of the iceberg that I mentioned. When we say, gosh, we want to grow or we want to sustain growth or all those things, it is not going to occur by another event, a better appeal, a fantastic Giving Tuesday, that one board member who like, oh my gosh, they're a really wealthy person in the community. Maybe we should do government contracts. Maybe we should start our event again. It's not going to get solved by that. We have to make sure that every hour your team is spending is aligned with dollars. And so your time, fundraiser, ED, who is ever on this call, is the organization's most valuable asset. So we have to make sure, and some of those things are important. Do I want Oprah to retweet you? Sure, I'll take a retweet. Like, do I want you to have great events? Sure, I want you to have great events. But when you don't have 40 hours of like free time and like, oh, I get to do whatever I want. Like, I know the hats you're wearing. Every hour you do spend fundraising has to yield a high ROI, and it has to be pointed at unrestricted dollars. Now, here's my model that I use so often. If you have a business background, this is an 80-20 rule. We have to plan our organization's growth around this model of dollars to hours. And so in my world, I always want your top 10 donors yielding between 25 and 40% of your revenue, and your top 30 donors between 50 and 75. Now, that obviously leaves 25%. That's where we point our compass. We have to be careful that as we move forward, even with cash in the bank, that we are not spending all of our time at top raising restricted gifts or raising project-based gifts. Assuming that donors only want to fund projects, that is a complete lie. We also can't assume, or I should say align all of our time and hours with activities that are attracting small gifts. I want you to attract small gifts, but we can't spend all of our time there. We cannot spend all of our time doing transactional fundraising. This is where organizations get stuck. These things at the bottom like seem to have deadlines and feel more urgent and like, Giving Tuesday is coming. Again, I want you to have a successful Giving Tuesday, but we have to make sure that we have a big picture view of how to finance our organization before we start deciding what fundraising activities to do. So if you're going to grow, if we're going to sustain, if we're going to keep moving on this amazing growth trajectory that you're on, I want to make sure that these dollars are rooted in relationships. These are from single source decision makers. That person we called April 2020, that person, like we need those. That's what we're pipelining. I call those single source decision makers for just that reason. I notice a lot of people avoid these types of relationships though, and don't totally know what to do. And it feels like, it feels a little like, what do I do? This feels weird. I don't want to be pushy, all the things. And so when we think of I guess if you think of it this way, if you think of kind of like highly relational, transactional, generally go with me, kind of at the bottom are the application-based contracts, appeals, events, all the things. Be careful because this bottom row, right? That's what feels urgent. Those are the things that have the deadlines. These activities tend to take precedence over our fundraising departments. And they're trapping you and keeping you from, scaling by millions. They're keeping you from raising more money every year. And so I challenge you to really, if you aren't already, really put on that hat of what are the things maybe I need to stop doing because, oh my goodness, it's sucking the time out of my brains. And what are the things I should start doing that are more aligned with the activities that attract those investment level donors, that lead me to sit at a conversation and say, actually, thank you for asking that question. Let me walk you through the 81%. I'm so glad you asked that. I get it a lot. And to lead them right through that. Own that. I love that question, but we got to be sitting in the room with those people. I welcome it from this list. If it's somebody that doesn't want to answer your question, then maybe they're not the right funder for us. I don't know. I don't know that answer. Okay, I'm doing okay on time. This fourth one. Okay, so I want to make sure. I want to make sure that you, as leaders who are Maybe it's an opportunity to grow your team. Maybe your development team went from 2 to 5, maybe it went from 5 to 10. All of these scenarios right now, we have to make sure we have the math to back up that we have the right people on the bus. And I say that because our development department that was rocking it when we were a $1.7 million organization, we might need something different now that you're a 5.2, right? When the growth has happened so tremendously. And so I was talking to a client the other day, and early on client, and he was saying like, hey, is there kind of a math equation? Like if I say, okay, well, if we, from a foundation perspective, if we do this many LOIs, we do this many submittals, and I hire this person, like there's kind of a ratio of what I can expect to raise. Is it the same with individuals? I'm like, well, yes and no. Yes, because we got to do the math on this. Everybody skips the step, right? It's like, well, if we hired a major gifts person, like, would they raise more? How much can we expect them to raise? I would say no, because the skill set of the bottom of the pyramid, that annual fundraiser and that major gifts fundraiser is very different. So we should expect different results from different types of fundraisers who are focused on individuals. So what I want you to focus on, what I want you to really think about is that your entire teams, and when I say team, I mean 3 things: executive leadership, fundraising team, and your board. If one of the 3 of those is not pulling their weight, it will be hard to grow. So I always, when I say team, I mean all 3 of those. Everybody's a fundraiser on those groups. So your goal, board member, everybody, your goal is to lead every single one of your donors to give their best gift and to give that gift to your mission every year. This is a game changer when people really, really passionately lead donors for their best gift. And counterintuitive, sometimes we got to slow it down. Slow it down. Oh my gosh, but what if we don't give an 8 till for 18 months? I'll wait if it's their best gift. I don't want to take the pass away, the kind of throwaway gift or the okay here gift. I want to make sure we're aligned, make sure we're mission to mission, really tight together. This is a mindset thing. When I do solicitation coaching and cultivation coaching, I always say, is that okay? Great. So they've given 5,000 every year for the last 3 years. Cool. Is that their best gift? I don't know. Maybe, we don't know. If it's not their best gift, or we're like, well, no, because we Googled and they're at the 50K and up list on that annual report, we got some work to do. So I love this approach, because if $25 being a monthly donor is a donor's best gift, that is amazing. And I want to serve them as such, because that gift is their best gift, and it is important to the organization, as every size gift is. But if that same donor we know is giving $50,000 to the organization down the road, we got some work to do. And that's exciting. We have some work to do. And so when we think of that best gift, I find that oftentimes we're avoiding some of these activities. Here's where we can get in the way as fundraisers, especially if our background maybe is in something else. We've kind of come up through this nonprofit in a different path. We used to be program people. We used to be the grant writer, whatever it is. Here's where we can sometimes get in the way. And here's where kind of that topic of asking for money and why it feels uncomfortable in the first place. We really have to make sure that your team and that you have the right people on the bus doing the right things, and that they feel really comfortable and confident. And so oftentimes we're looking at, when we're looking at our team, we're looking at our org charts, we think of these traditional sales relationships. So often I hear, maybe you've said this, I feel like I'm begging, right? We don't want to do any of these things. Can I just send an email? Can we just do a blast? Can we just have another event? That's for our board members. In that case, this is a concept I love. I've learned from my coach. It's like this, we feel like we're the fundraisers, kind of begging, like, please, could you, I don't know if you can, but I'd love for you to consider. And if you can, here's the link, right? Like that doesn't feel good. Nobody wants to be in that. And on the flip side, we don't want to be too pushy. We don't want to be that person. We don't want to offend them. We don't want to be the used car salesman, right? In that case, it's like, give me the money. Like, we worry we're that person. If you're doing it right, if we're leading donors to their best gift and you're taking the time per pyramid segment to create amazing donor experiences, you don't have to be either of those. It's a win-win because you get to present the need of the organization and ask for their best gift. These are the types of investment level conversations that I want to make sure that you guys are taking the time to have. There is no better person to do this than you, than to sit down and say, I'd love to walk through that question you had about the 81%. Who are our investment level donors? They are business leaders, entrepreneurs, community leaders. They are innovating. They are risk takers. They are driving change in their own businesses. They've also asked for investments. They've also had to ask for money. And so they're dying for you to have these conversations with them and pivot out of the golf outing. I'm not even going to ask if I can be that bold. It just came out of my mouth. I mean, it's so important. We know, so like, I want you to really understand that, like, I want you to focus when we're thinking top of the pyramid. Again, I'm not saying ignore the bottom, but are you spending enough time at the top part of the pyramid too, when that could be 75% of your revenue? We know that the best relationships come out when it really is like a peer-to-peer relationship, not peer-to-peer fundraising, but like we are in relationship with people. There's a mission aligned win-win. And it really is natural because we've taken the time that it takes to secure every donor's best gift. Josh, there was a stat I read recently that said it takes 81% of donors 6 months to 24 months to give their best gift. And so often we're like, oh my gosh, I have the meeting with the rich person and I got to ask them for something. I said, we're not asking. Like, I'm going to ask you after this first meeting, did they like you? That's what I'm going to ask you. And we're going to lead them to the next step. And I want it to take that long because otherwise we have this pipeline of people who are like, yeah, they were nice. I don't know. They weren't mission aligned. They don't want to have a donor experience from us. And then like, oh, I wonder why they won't respond to our emails sometimes. Because I don't know that they wanted to be in our pipeline, but we had a great first meeting and like, we're just making some assumptions. Yeah. Take the time.
That stat makes so much sense to me because you flip it on the for-profit side, right? These are essentially big enterprise deals. These are, it's a big software investment, right? And sometimes those deals take 6, 12, 18 months to land, but it's a lot of work between now and then. And all of it is around building that relationship. And so when we're talking about investment level donors, this is that for fundraisers. So it ties up perfectly.
So good. I like, I see a couple of questions. I'm going to come back to those because I want to make sure we get this. And I've got one eye on the clock down here. I'm going to land this plane. But here's what I want to say about this step or tip 4 of like making sure we have the right people on the bus. This is the time for you to really weigh if you have people on your team who know how to fundraise at the top of the pyramid to individuals, not grant applications, not events, not appeals. That's not where I want how I want them giving. Do your fundraisers know how to lead investment level donors through investment conversations? Ask yourself, like, really, we have to know that. This traditional cadence, which we all do, which is great. It's great. All the things we do. It's very specific for the bottom part of the pyramid. Good. It is not going to attract and keep these donors up here. That their communication, segmentation, this is what I feel like Bloomerang does so well. Their segmentation, we have to be exclusive, customized, very donor focused, not in a slimy way. That cadence is this. That's a totally different skill set. I've spent the last 2 years in the whole hiring craziness that's going on, helping people realize, like, I think we maybe had the wrong person on the bus, or the person on the bus has gotten us this far, but now we need to move some seats around to get this far. And so one of the biggest places I see money left on the table is when we're not doing these top things. Like, our major donors and mid-level donors are not going to give their best gift at an event because that appeal was such an amazing graphic appeal. These are stakeholder exclusive presentations. Our mass and grassroots donors, we're pipelining. That's where a lot of this, time suck happens, right? So I want to make sure the misalignment of donor segment to fundraising activity, 7 figures are on the table so often. I see it all the time. It's what I fix. So do a check on that. So I want to make sure your fundraisers know how to lead large donors to their best gift. That is the key what I'm sharing with you today. I want you also, like, I was going to go off on a board tangent, but I'm not, because I'm watching the clock. I want you to be able to share the need of the organization and ask for that need. That's critical. That's a numbers-based conversation. Okay. That's the math problem that I was trying to tell you today, or saying about the math problem of the staff. We have to make sure that this best gift every year, the pyramid, how we're aligning the activities, that's how we align hours with dollars, activities with dollars. That's the math problem. Back to this slide, that is what's aligned. Like, what you're not seeing again is the expenses, the metric-based org chart that propels them to these numbers, aligning hours with dollars. That is the step everybody skips. So this is what we need to be looking at as you are in this new welcome challenge of growth. Okay, last step. I really want, if you haven't picked up today, I made some like giant statement on LinkedIn. Like, I was like, I'm no longer talking about scarcity. It's abundance from here on out. Now here I am talking about scarcity, but I'm just over. I'm over the all these things we told ourselves for so long. So, like, donors only want to fund projects, or they don't want to give unrestricted gifts, or all of these things. Like, donors are only making decisions on percentages. Are we still going to have that? Yes, we are. But let's not make the assumptions and operate based on that assumptions. Let's make new assumptions, because I am seeing so many donors come along in what I've shared with you today. They get it. They're listening differently. And so we have to take the lead. We get the opportunity to serve and lead our donors on these journeys. We have to check ourselves, make sure we're not just doing transactional fundraising. That's the opposite of a donor experience. We get the opportunity to lead our donors to their best gift. Your job is to not decide what that best gift is for your donors, right? We got to get our heads out of their pockets. An example of that would be, which I hear often is like, well, I don't think they could give this, so let's just ask them for this. Your job is to share the need. Your job is to share the plan. Your job is to tell the stories, not only the heart, life change stories, but the financial stories of the organization and how you're going to make the impact. Your organization's job is to share the need and invite donors to give to that need. And when we don't do this, we are risking underselling your organization and its mission and its impact. And again, there's never been a time we should not be doing that. Like, of what organizations have pulled us through these last couple of years, this is not the time to undersell impact. So as I wrap up and make sure we have time for Q&A, I want you to kind of fight against fixing the problems at the top, if you will. Embrace where you are right now. Take advantage of your growth. Move into these strategic activities that are going to help, sustain you, reach that next level, exceed expectations again, or exceeds budgets again. Do that strategic plan, put those initiatives in place, and make sure before we jump into fundraising that we really understand the business behind the fundraising, the spend you have to make, that allows you and empowers you to reach that dollar amount that you need. So we'll pivot into Q&A here. Good. I think I did okay. We have 7 minutes. if you want to reach out, like, again, hop on LinkedIn. I do tons of board training. I work with groups of all sizes, from a coaching perspective, from advisory, from planning, helping organizations really figure out the plan from the 2 to 10 or the 50 to 100, whatever it is. I'd be glad to hear from you.
Sure. I'm gonna fire up a quick poll here. So if you'd
Okay,
like,
good.
if you have Sherry's information, if you'd like her to reach out to you, or if you'd like additional information from Bloomerang, go ahead and respond to this poll. And we'll follow up with folks before they take the poll before you hop off. I'm gonna keep this up. And we're gonna head into Q&A.
So good.
Yeah, Sherry, do you want me to read them off here, or do you want to?
You know what? I have them up. Can I start with Brian?
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, so where does this additional overhead get allocated? Marketing and advertising? Well, it's different for everybody. Here's what I would ask you. I would look at your budget and I would have some honest conversations, and I would say, maybe before the growth or whatever, what are the things that, like, during budgeting season, we were always like, I don't know if we should put that in. And I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, is some of it marketing, advertising? Maybe. But I would say, like, again, we talk staff. Does your staff have that next level skill set, your fundraisers? Does your board need training and you haven't done that in the past? Are you depending on volunteers to do X, Y, and Z? And like, oh my gosh, we love them, but it always takes 3 times as long. What are those pain points? What are those kind of points that are like, we just got to spend money to fix that? We never put it in the budget. So it could really look like anything, Brian. It could be from financial services to software that you know that you need, that you're like, oh, we've kind of cheaped out in this area before. It could look like any sort of training. It could look like leadership training. It could be just simply staff. I'll tell you one place, since you brought up marketing and advertising. Oh my gosh, we've grown by millions. Maybe it's time to not have a dual development director and Marcom person. Maybe those are 2 roles now. I'm doing that all day long. Like, I want you thinking those kind of things, because that's just gas in the engine, right? Do we need to grow that mid-level, or that more admin support that empowers our leaders to do a better job? It's not just, spend overhead for the sake of it, but like, what is going to allow everybody to do their job better and quicker and more efficient, so we can raise our money to go back into programs. Somebody asked, if you have had phenomenal growth, but it's not been from investment level donors, how do we begin to identify investment level donors? So I'm of the mindset of, not that you're saying it this way, but like, we can't go hunt for donors, right? We can't go hunt. Are we doing the things that attract donors, investment level donors? Are we talking away, presenting in a way, doing the things that help people understand what our growth is? Are we speaking their language? So what I would do would be to look at that pyramid and say, that I showed you, where it was like, kind of the bottom was like appeals, events, all these things. Those are not attracting investment level donors. Is that how we're fundraising? I don't know. So I would look at, what are the things that we want to do with mid and major level donors? We want to have stakeholder conversations. We want to bring them into higher level conversations. How are we solving this crisis? What are our plans? I would say to you, are you having those types of conversations, even with connectors? You don't have those donors? Great. Who's the most connected person you know? Who's somebody else scaling a great business? Go get their insight. Ask them who you should be talking to. Start talking in that CEO to CEO way, right? People think that donors don't want to have financial conversations. They don't want to see a graphic representation of the budget. They don't want to talk through the 990. Not true. Not true. People go from 4-figure gifts to 6-figure gifts because my fundraisers know how to walk through financials and know how to share everything in a very transparent way and open those conversations. Do you believe in building an endowment fund versus investing in current ops to fuel? Depends. If you like, I wouldn't tell you to start an endowment fund if you don't have a strong annual fund. Because asking for a endowment gift or a legacy gift is a step in your donor's experience. I would ask you, are they already giving annually? Right? Because people who usually will give to an endowment fund, it's an annual fund donor. So sometimes if people want to start an endowment fund, I go straight to like, great, do you have a really good pace of annual fund gifts? So I don't think it's a one or the other. I would just say, if you have a really strong annual fund, and you know everybody's giving their best gift and you were soliciting top of the pyramid all day long, might be time. If you're not, I would build your annual fund. Can I keep going? Or I got 2 minutes. Is that okay, Josh?
One more. Let's see if we can get one more question in there.
Okay.
You can sneak the other two in. Great.
Okay, good. Really quickly, is it the ED or development director that needs to begin developing relationships? Both is the answer. We have grown through board policies. So far without skilled fundraisers, great job. The skills of the board fundraising seem in contrast with the skills of the board policymaking. How is it balanced? I think what you're asking is like, I'm not totally sure what you're asking, but here's my take on boards as we open the can of worms on boards with 1 minute to go. I'm a believer in modeling fundraising to your boards. I want them connecting. I want them networking. Are you giving your board members great donor experiences? Are you showing them how it's done? If they have fiduciary responsibility, that's just not nitpicking expenses. 50% of their responsibility is expenses. That means the other 50% is income. So they need to be introducing, networking, education, connecting, all of those things. So show them how it's done. Manage up. Are you soliciting them? They see it's not so scary. We got to model it for them. They're experts at something else. They're bankers and lawyers and teachers and social workers. Like they don't know how it's done. So we as fundraisers have to model it and show them how to do it.
Fantastic. Sherry, always a pleasure. I learned stuff here. I'm sure our audience picked up some great tidbits. Thank you for joining us. To those of you joining us, thank you for all the work that you do. We know fundraising, it's fun, and you are doing great work in the communities that you're doing, and we are so honored to have you join us for this hour. So we will be continuing next week. We have 2 great webinars next week. One is talking about sort of unrestricted funds. It's a really good conversation with our friend Stephanie Sample. So please join us. That's, I believe, on Tuesday. Until next time, we'll see you all virtually. Sherry, again, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for having me. Have a great rest of your day.